third step in building a leadership brand capability is to assess leaders and leadership. We've created a business case for leaders and leadership. We've written our declaration of leadership brand using the code and the differentiators. Now we want to see if our leaders, where do they stand? What are their strengths? What are their development gaps in being able to come in and be able to deliver on these ideas that we've determined that are important for the firm? Well, let's start with individual leaders first. We can look at 3 ways to assess individual leaders. The first question is, do the individual leaders have the right stuff? We typically use psychological tools in order to identify that. We can look at things like, do they have fire in the belly? Do they have conceptual capability? Do they have analytical rigor in their approach to things? So what are the predispositions that these leaders have? That's the right stuff element. Really important to identify that. The second area of assessment is, do they have the code fundamentals? Leaders in any company, as we've described before, share 5 areas that they need to be able to know, be, and do. They need to be strategists, they need to be executors, they need to be human capital developers, and they need to be talent managers, while having great interpersonal skills and personal proficiency. So we can assess those fundamentals. We can use tools like 360s. We can do behavioral event interviews where we go back and look at experiences in their career to identify where they've been a strategist, where they've had to use integrity and courage and learning agility in their approach to problems, or where they've been a good executor, and so on. So the first one is psychological assessments against the basic right stuff ingredients. The second is, do they have the fundamentals in order to be effective leaders for their place in the pipeline? And the third is, do they exhibit the leadership differentiators that make our leaders unique? At the RBL Group, we say that we want our customers to know us for being results-oriented, innovative, and engaging. So whether it's for selection or development purposes, we use 360s and interviewing techniques and so on to get examples of where people have done or not been able to pull off those unique differentiators for us. Second idea, once you've been able to identify individual leader competencies in the areas that we've talked about, both psychological and behavioral around the code and the differentiators, we now want to be able to look at the aggregate leadership pipeline. What we know about these pipelines is that people can move to places in the pipeline and not have the requisite knowledge, skills, and experiences to be effective in that area. So just being in a job doesn't mean that you actually have the psychological and experiences and perspective and judgment in order to be there. So we want to take a look at that and to get a feel for that. So what are some of those transitions through the pipeline? Well, people enter in as an apprentice, become an individual contributor. They have to move from dependence to independence. They move from individual contributor, which is an independent, competitive, I'm the best at what I do, to becoming a supervisor or a manager. To become an effective supervisor or manager, they have to stop all the independence and begin to work through others, become a coach, a mentor, an ideal leader, become a developer of others. As they move from supervisor, manager to more senior executive, they have to stop working through influence and stop using power, acting on behalf of the whole organization, setting a strategic direction for a large part of the organization, and so on. So we can use tools like the 4 stages framework. Ram Shriram and his colleagues at General Electric have given us ideas about what really these transitions are in the leadership pipeline. And in this stage, we want to be able to assess that. So whether we're looking at assessing individual leaders, or we're looking at an aggregate level, looking at our leadership pipeline, Identifying where we really are now, having a reality check, enables us to develop great training programs. It enables us at an individual level to put people in the right job assignments, and enables us to execute the strategy when we look at the whole pipeline, and to create confidence in our stakeholders.